Hello, everybody, and welcome. Good afternoon. We got the voice of Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, a good friend of us, a good friend of the show. But today he's on the road doing other things, getting ready for a Christmas Day Camellia Bowl down there in Birmingham, Alabama. What a way to spend Christmas Day there, Dave, in Alabama.
Well, it's actually in Montgomery, and we're going to play Ball State. And, for a football team that started out 1-4, I'll raise my hand and say, you know what, I'm happy to be going to any bowl, because 5 games in, with some losses to Army and North Carolina and a close loss at Auburn in a game that we should have won, and, a rough loss in our conference opener to Appalachian State, you're 1-4 and you're kind of teetering. Is this season going to go further that direction, or are we going to be able to pull out of this? And to Georgia State's credit, the coaching staff and to the players, they really pulled out of it, because they won 6 of their last 7 ball games, almost beat Louisiana in Lafayette on a Thursday night, which would have basically had them run the table for the final 7 games. But yeah, to be able to pull out of that from 1-4 and to be able to play any bowl game, whether it's Christmas Day or not, I think everybody feels fortunate, to be in the position that they're in.
I think it's really cool to have a Christmas Day bowl game. We haven't had that in a while. When I was a kid growing up, the Aloha Bowl was the game on ABC, and and that went away 2006 or something, or 2005, and it's like now you got a Christmas Day bowl game again. I'm like, this is cool. I love that.
Yeah, primarily now when you think of Christmas Day, you think of 5 NBA games.
Right, exactly.
And they arrange it so it's 10 teams that everybody really wants to see. It's a really made-for-television NBA event. And then I'm trying to remember, there's no NFL games on Christmas Day.
No, there actually won. There's one this year. It's the Browns and Packers playing, and then you got the Colts and somebody else playing at 8:15, but it's a busy day for sports, but it's cool that we got other things instead in the NBA.
Yeah, well, I think everybody knows too that depending on where you are in the country, by a certain point in the afternoon, the Christmas festivities and having family and friends over, I don't want to say wears off a little bit, but everybody just kind of settles down a little bit. They sit down, they've got the remote in their hand, and they're flipping around looking for something to watch on into the evening. So for Georgia State, look, they're the only college game that, on Christmas afternoon. It's a program that is about to finish its 12th season, and they're going to be playing in front of a national audience on the biggest holiday of the year for most people. And of course, we'll have it on the radio network as well here in Atlanta.
Well, that's pretty cool for a program that just started 12 years ago. And I remember the first year you guys started, it was like you had this independent schedule, and Bill Curry had to play against Alabama. And it was like, I'm like, why is Georgia State playing against Alabama? And I know that was just for money and all that stuff. But then that must have been thrilled to go down there and go, all right, we're in Tuscaloosa and we're losing by 100 points.
63-7 was the final.
Yeah.
And the Bill Curry Alabama connection. He coached at Alabama for 3 years. The AD at the time, as he tells the story, and he tells it better than I do, called and said, hey, would you like to bring Georgia State to Tuscaloosa? Of course, Coach talked it over with our athletic director at the time, and they said, sure. He says, in all honesty, he didn't realize it was for the 2010 season. He thought they were talking 2 or 3 years out.
Oh.
But it turns out Alabama needed a game right before the Iron Bowl. And so, if I remember correctly, that game was originally scheduled on a Saturday before the Iron Bowl. They came back to Georgia State administration and said, we'll increase the payout if you agree to move the game to a Thursday night.
Oh.
So Georgia State did. We played them on a Thursday night, and 63-7 was the final score. But for Alabama, they got that following weekend off, and then the entire week leading up to prepare for Auburn.
Exactly.
So it went from being 400,000, I think, to 435,000. Now that sounds low, but that was when Georgia State was an FCS program.
Right.
Now as an FBS program, I don't think we would go anywhere for $435,000. Everything is now $1 million plus when we're playing what we call the guarantee game.
Yeah. Well, it seems like when I heard about the Sun Belt getting all these new teams, I thought of you right away because it's like the old CAA going down south. You know,
Yep.
you got Old Dominion coming back. You have JMU is basically, and that thing started. That's getting ugly up here with the CAA. It's like these people need to like let them go, let them go. You know, it's okay. You know, we'll find somebody to fill in that hole, and you know, and Delaware's pretty. And you were in the league for a couple of years. Delaware's pretty good. You know, you'll be fine. You know, and I just feel like the way they handle that whole JMU thing with CAA was like, come on, people, just let them go. You know?
Yeah, you know, though, we've been through that, as was Old Dominion, as did George Mason, and as did Virginia Commonwealth. The Colonial, and look, I think the Colonial was a fantastic league when Georgia State was in it. We didn't bring a whole lot to it. For the 1 year, we only were in it for football for 1 year, but the 6 or 7 years we were in it for basketball.
Right.
You know, when we first got in, we were not ready. You know, we just were not ready. And I say this to this day, I don't know that we'll ever be in another conference in my lifetime. We're in a span of 6 years, 2 conference teams go to the Final Four, as we saw with George Mason and Virginia Commonwealth.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see that in the Sun Belt anytime soon. But they have a rule that they all voted on, and I guess enough of them agreed upon it that it's still in existence. If you as a school announce that you're leaving, in all of your sports, you are not allowed to contend for a conference championship.
Right.
That happened to Old Dominion, George Mason, Virginia Commonwealth. It happened to Georgia State.
Wow.
James Madison is now pissing and moaning about it when they voted for it back in the day. Back in the day, they had no idea they'd be leaving to join the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
So now it's coming home to roost. They're now in the same boat that the 4 of us were in when we left the Colonial the last time. And again, Don't get me wrong, I like the Colonial. I thought it was a great move for Georgia State to get out of at the time, the Atlantic Sun and get into the Colonial, because, you know, people look at you and they say, well, who are you hanging out with? And all of a sudden we were hanging out with schools that were really good.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great move for us. But what you're referencing, James Madison complaining about it, they voted for it.
I know. It's like you know, and I'm like, okay, I think they need it. And now with James Madison going to you guys, you know, they won't start playing Sunbelt. They're going to be playing some Sunbelt games, but they're not going to be part of the league until 2023, because they're going to do like an independent like turnover. You know, they could play whoever they want next year, and then they're in the league. You know, that's going to boost everybody up, because you got also, don't forget, you got Marshall coming to town. Yeah, that's like they're leaving Conference USA to go to Sun Belt. There's something. What is the Sun Belt commissioner, you know, telling them to come down to beautiful? You know, it's turned into Sun Belt and then another Power 5 conference in like in 2 weeks.
Pretty much, you know, for a while there, if you go back when we first joined the Sun Belt, one of the reasons we were invited to join the Sun Belt, if you remember correctly, the American rated Conference USA. Conference USA turned around and raided the Sun Belt. They took both Florida International, Florida Atlantic, Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky.
Right.
So that opened the door, obviously, for Georgia State, which, by the way, for historical purposes, Georgia State was an original founding member of the Sun Belt back in 1976, 77. Okay. So for us, it was actually a return to the Sun Belt Conference. But the point of it is that, you know, initially, when the news came out, it was going to be, well, okay, the 4 schools, Old Dominion, James Madison, Marshall, Southern Miss, they're all going to come in 2023.
Right.
Well, nobody has any patience anymore. I'm hearing now that the 3 of them at least could be in by next year. And you're right, James Madison could play some semblance of a schedule, but they could transition in fully a year later.
Right.
I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. Look at what the Sun Belt East in football is going to look like. Another reason why I'm thankful to be going to a bowl game, because right now the Sun Belt has 5 bowl tie-ins. You already know every year, App State, Louisiana, Coastal Carolina have pretty much spoken for 3 of them. Louisiana is the only team that had an overall winning record.
Jeez.
So there's no comparison, Sun Belt East, Sun Belt West. The Sun Belt East is going to be an absolute monster.
Yeah. It would be like the ACC Atlantic, when you have Clemson and Florida State, and if you're like Syracuse, you have to go through the gauntlet to get up to whatever. And and sometimes those teams, like Wake Forest, probably got through it. It's like for years it was like Wake Forest got there and it got knocked off, and they're like, now it's like they finally made it through. It's like, all right, there you go, you can do it. Now everybody's like, oh, we could go through Clemson now.
Right.
And
just prior to this announcement, the feeling around Georgia State football, after struggling for some years and bringing in Coach Elliott, and he's done a fantastic job, elevating the level of the program.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling is, the next step is to contend for a Sun Belt Conference championship. And primarily the last, 3 years, it's been Appalachian State, Louisiana.
Right.
Those two have kind of become the face of Sun Belt Conference football, along with Coastal Carolina, because of what they've done the last couple of years. We finished technically second in the Sun Belt this year, Sun Belt East, because we beat Coastal on the road. But when you look at the schools in the league, we got the fourth bowl bid.
Okay.
And nobody got the fifth because there wasn't a fifth bowl eligible team. Anyway, the prevailing thought now is the next step for Georgia State football is to elevate and compete for a Sun Belt Conference championship.
Okay.
Well, man, that just got a whole lot harder when we drop in those teams you and I were just talking about. It's no longer just Coastal and Appalachian State. Now it's the other three that are coming in to the Sun Belt East.
Yeah.
Well, Southern Miss will go to the West.
Yeah. I want to see how JMU does in being a Division I, above, where they were. Because in the CAA, they got whatever they wanted. They got people coming to town. Now they have to fight for, your Division I school on that I-81 corridor. It's almost like North Carolina. I told someone the other day, it was almost like North Carolina. You got the triangle. Yeah. And now you got the corridor. You got Lynchburg. You got Liberty doing great. You got Virginia, just got Elliott from Clemson. You got other schools along that 81 court. It's like, okay, now you got to fight for people in the state of the Commonwealth going, hey, you want to go to Virginia? You want to go to JMU? We're both Division I now. Come on down.
In all honesty, I think, and I've said this on more than one occasion. I don't know that I'm right. It's just a gut feeling. You go back in Appalachian State, which was a top FCS program every year. Georgia Southern, for the most part, a little bit more of a roller coaster, but they were a pretty good FCS program before they transitioned. And both transitioned.
They had Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson was with Georgia Southern. They won titles before they went into Division I. So
6 of them back in the day. Well, they had Irk Russell won those titles, or won most of them.
Right.
The legendary Irk Russell, if you're down here in the state of Georgia. But I think that James Madison will transition. I'm not going to say relatively seamlessly, but they will not come in and be the doormat of the Sun Belt East at all. I mean, they just got beat in the FCS playoffs. They're one of the final 4 in the FCS 2014 playoff. I think like Appalachian State, they're going to be ready, and they will come in and be competitive with pretty much everybody right from the get-go.
Right, exactly. Well, let's talk about Christmas Day. You're taking on Ball State, and the only person I know from Ball State is David Letterman. So is David Letterman going to be on the other side of the field that game? Because I feel like David Letterman's looking for things to do. He showed up in the Kennedy Senate Honors tonight, on CBS or whatever, 2 days from now. It's like he's looking for something to do now. So he might show up on Christmas Day.
Well, he might, but if you haven't seen him in a while, he looks a little different than the last time most of the country saw him on Late Night with David Letterman. He could be down there, and most people wouldn't even know that he's standing on the sidelines or that he's somewhere in the stadium.
He looks like Santa Claus. They give him the red suit and like, hey, how you doing, bud? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, this will be the third meeting between Georgia State and Ball State. We beat them a number of years ago up in Muncie, and then they beat us in the now non-existent Georgia Dome when they came down to Atlanta. So this will be the third time we've played them. Again, we're 7-5. We finished 6-2 in the league. They're 6-6. They're 4-4 in the MAC. I think it's going to be, you say what you will about who's favored, who's the underdog. Look, I think it's two teams that, basically finished the league strong, earned a bowl bid, Happy to be playing no matter whether it's on Christmas Day or not. The numbers, as I've kind of done a comparison, there's some numbers that are similar, some that are not. I think it's going to end up hopefully being a really good football game. Of course, on my side, Georgia State this year won 7 games. It was the first time they've ever won 7 regular season games. Last year we won the Lending Tree Bowl down in Mobile. That was our 7th win. This year we won 7 regular season. If we beat them, it'll be the first time Georgia State has ever won 8 games in a season. So, of course, I'm a little biased as the radio guy for Georgia State that we can, do something that's never been done before. Check off another box on the list that we've now won 8 games in a season.
Yeah. So where's the league office for the Sun Belt? Where is that?
The league office, believe it or not, is right inside the Mercedes Superdome in New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, because when we go to Media Day, or when I've gone to Media Day, it's right inside. Now, it's inside the Superdome in New Orleans. They hold it right inside not inside the actual dome, but it's in some space there inside the dome. And it's interesting because we don't have a New Orleans team. Right. I've always kind of thought Tulane would make a really good Sun Belt school. Mm-hmm. That's just me personally. Yeah. There's no New Orleans team. They're just based out of New Orleans. And up until last year, the Sun Belt Conference basketball tournament was always in New Orleans at Lakefront Arena. Right. And this past year, they finally moved it to Pensacola. Okay. But I think they wanted the tournament in their hometown so that they could better organize it rather than have to organize it out of, basically everybody from the office being on the road. But
exactly. Well, Dave, I want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. I know you have to leave on New Year's, Christmas Day to go down there. I know your family's probably like, can you get home quickly, Dad? Yeah.
Well, luckily it's an afternoon game. So we're going down the morning of, and we're coming back that night.
That's cool. And your wife's going to hold, Christmas dinner for you, or she's going to say, here's microwave,
We hope.
Listening, I'll tell her, hold the food. Okay. Tell everybody to come later after the game's over. So Dave has, some Christmas stuff.
Yeah. Leave just a little bit to the side to make sure that there's something when the radio crew gets back. The team is actually leaving on the 21st. Okay. And they're going to be down there for 5 days because I think they're even staying the night after the game. The night of the game. But Montgomery's a cool place to visit. Okay. I've done games there before, not at this particular facility. Our Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament is in Montgomery, but I don't know what I would do there for basically 4 or 5 days.
Hey, that's why they have bowl week. They try to do other things. It's fascinating. They have the Annapolis, the military bowl. I'm like, there's not really anything in Annapolis. No offense. I'm here in Maryland. There's you got a mall and you could go see the Naval Academy. That's all you could see. Right. What are you going to do? Take everybody to the inner harbor, or the National Harbor? Come on. There's nothing really here.
And most of the bowl activities are for the players. Right. So
they get their gifts, and some of their gifts, Dave, I wish I had. Yeah. I want a PlayStation. Just give me one.
It'd be nice. None of that seems to ever filter down to the radio crew.
I know, and nothing for us. We get what? We get a T-shirt, a hat. 1 year I went to the Cotton Bowl, and they gave me this very cool book bag that I use for my travel now. And I'm thinking that's the greatest thing I ever seen, because that thing is probably $300 when you buy it at a freaking store. Yeah, and I'm like,
we're just happy to be there. I try to get a T-shirt with the 2 helmets every. This will be bowl game number 5 for Georgia State. So I've been to all 5. I will have been to all 5 of them. So I just try to make sure I get a souvenir T-shirt with the 2 helmets of the participating team, so that I can actually say that I was there.
And you can put them on your wall and say, "Hey, I was there. I broadcast that one.
Exactly. The only one I didn't get yet, and it's only because it was $50 when they were selling it in the hotel, and I thought I would get the shirt when I get over to the stadium, and I didn't. 2 years ago, we played Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl. Okay. And they were selling no merchandise in the stadium by the time we got down there to look. Mm-hmm. Maybe
these questions for both coaches. What is one thing you're looking forward to going up to New York City during bowl week? Is there something that you guys are going to look forward to, or is there something that you guys going to you want to see?
I guess I'll go first. For me, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I'm a little selfish. My birthday is on Christmas Day, so we will be traveling up to New York. So I'm just looking forward to being able to spend it with my football family, as well as our coaching staff and our families. We haven't been able to do that. We haven't been to a bowl game during my tenure. So being together, we always talk about a football family and not a football team. To spend it, my 52nd birthday with my players and our staff and all the other people up in New York City is something I'm looking forward to.
Thank you, because now, the best bakeries in the world are here. We have
mainly just the excitement of being in New York around Christmas time. I've never been there this time of year. Rockefeller Center, and all those things that just the glamour and glitz of New York this time of year. Just looking forward to really experiencing those things for our families and our staff.
Thank you.
We can take the next question from David Barnes.
My question today, just talk about, did you get a chance to, when Notre Dame doesn't play a lot of Big 12 teams a lot, so, what do you see playing against a Big 12 team? Because I know they don't, no offense, it seems like they play like street football. You go to the mailbox and make a left and forget about defense.
Yeah, I think that's flipped a little bit, to be honest. I think when you watch Big 12 football now, you see a lot of really good defense being played. I think a lot of the new wave of defensive football has been kind of that 3-3-5 structure that you saw from Iowa State when we played them in 19 in their bowl game. And I think the conference has been very innovative that way because they've had to stop high-powered offenses. So you see a lot of what they've implemented in that conference trickle over across college football. So I think the defense in that conference has been played at a very high level over the last 2 years probably here. And we're excited for the challenge. It's not a conference that we play a whole lot. Like I said, a couple of years ago in the bowl game, when I was a player, we got to play Oklahoma a couple of times, and those were great matchups. So we're definitely excited to get this opportunity and eager to, these are what bowl games are for, right? You get to play matchups that you don't typically get to play. And for us to play in this big of a game against, an opponent like Oklahoma State, who's nationally in the conversation every year, we're extremely excited for that opportunity.
We're talking about a week.
Hey, Coach Kelly, thank you for taking my question. I'm Chris Heidel from Herbertson Radio in Baltimore. First of all, talk about your quarterback this year. It seems like he was more developed. I know last year, everything with COVID and all that stuff, it seems like you guys are on a good roll this year.
Yeah, I think Dorian's been outstanding. He's a heck of a competitor. He's one of the toughest guys I've ever been around in terms of some of the hits that he's taken and just bounces back up and continues to play. I'm excited that he gets an opportunity to play in a bowl game. He certainly deserves it, like everybody else on our team. But and I think he's playing his best football. He's played really, really well in the last 3 games, and we're hoping he can continue to grow in this last one.
All right, let's go back to Ben.